Good evening and welcome to the Westborough Advisory Finance Committee meeting of October 2nd, 2023, meeting number 8 of fiscal 2024 at Memorial Hall in Town Hall here. Pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023, this meeting will be conducted in person and via remote means in accordance with applicable law. This means that members of the public body, as well as members of the public, may access this meeting in person or via virtual means. In-person attendance will be at the location above, and it is possible that all members of the public body may attend remotely, with in-person attendance consisting of members of the public. This meeting may be accessed remotely via the link in the agenda. When required by law or allowed by the chair, persons wishing to provide public comment or otherwise participate in the meeting may do so by in-person attendance or by accessing the meeting remotely as noted above or before. Additionally, the meeting will be broadcast live in real time via Verizon Channel 28, Charter Channel 192, or via Westborough TV's online platforms at westboroughTV.org and youtube.com/WestboroughTV. This meeting is being recorded and will be live streamed by Westborough TV, and we thank Westborough TV for their kind assistance on that. And Andrew's here, so I think we're only missing Beth. Okay, so we have a quorum and we're ready to go, and I see only one guy in the audience for public comment, but he's actually our guest, so we'll go straight to you, Chris, and introduce Chris Payant, the DPW Director, to give us some information on the DPW articles in the Fall Town Meeting warrant.
Okay, good evening. So we have 4 articles. 3 of them are not really related to money, and the 4th one I'll discuss is related to an increase. So Article 11 is Quick Farm Road acceptance. I really will just, I guess, for some of these, just see if you have any questions. Otherwise, keep moving. So I don't know if anybody has any questions on Quick Farm.
Any questions? I can tell you the planning board has voted in favor of this already at their previous meeting, and I don't think we have any specific questions on those.
Okay.
Let me just check. There's 2 people, Rod and Melanie are remote, so Melanie's nodding no.
I'm all set.
Oh, Rod's all set. Okay, on to Article 11. 12.
So that's, the next 2 are related to zoning requirements associated with projects we have on deck. So Article 12 is specific to the DPW parcel, where we're adding an addition, or putting an addition onto the water treatment plant related to PFAS. So that's just setting the dimensions for the parcel for the project.
Okay. On my warrant, this is Article 11, so I don't know if you're a warrant behind. You on the final?
I'm on the final. Are you on the final?
I think so. Okay. In any case, the first one we're talking about is Oak Street.
Version 6 is what I'm tracking.
Oh, okay, because there's a final one now. No, move back one because the school article disappeared.
Okay.
So
I apologize for that then. But yes,
there's one past version 6.
Establishing dimensional zoning regulation
Right.
for
Okay.
building an M1 district PFAS improvements.
Okay. So just, I guess my quick question is, this piece of property we're talking about is kind of where the DPW sits?
Yeah, it's our
Your lot.
DPW facility, yes.
And to be clear, we're not really changing any zoning, we're just allowing we have to set this in order to do the project that we
Correct.
need that was already approved.
Yes.
In that sense. Does anybody have any questions specific to this? I will mention, I believe there's a public hearing still to be done, but I don't think there'll be much.
It's tomorrow night.
Yeah, I'm not expecting, since it's not in the middle of a neighborhood or something, that would be a big thing. But
You may have just answered the question. I was just wondering where this building is located proximate to residential activity?
It's at the DPW facility on Oak Street.
Got it. All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
It's right around the corner from my house. It's It's real convenient.
Make it loud,
Okay,
noisy.
so then the next one is
Dusty.
similar but a different place.
Yes, so the next one is similar request, but different location. So this parcel is located at the intersection of Upton Road and Morse Street, which is right next to our Morse Street well.
Are there
So
any?
setting the dimensions for that parcel as well.
Okay, are there any questions from anybody specific to that?
Walter?
Yeah, Rod, go ahead.
So, I've met with the planning director, and the only concern I have with these articles is that it's not based on the building setbacks, it's based on basically construction setbacks, which really doesn't have anything to do with our zoning bylaws the way they're written. And that's one concern. The second concern I have is it talks about any future development can be developed there without zero lot lines. And I'm not opposed to what Chris is trying to do. I'm opposed to the way these articles are written. And I've expressed that to the planning director, and we'll express it to the planning board when they look at it.
Okay, so you're planning on attending that meeting?
Yep.
Oh, okay, cool. Any other comments, questions? Can you clarify what you just said? Because I think you're saying is this particular,
It has to do with the way all these are written. So, zoning setbacks are typically based on building setbacks. The way the article is written, it's based on the setbacks to do any construction. And then I think the article also says any future construction. So basically, we're saying that any project going forward could be built right up to the property line.
Yeah, but doesn't it have to, because you might have, it's the area you're doing the construction in, not necessarily where you're building a building, but you need to roll your wheelbarrow down the property line. If you made it smaller, you wouldn't be allowed to be there, is my
But
guess.
the zoning bylaw itself doesn't require setbacks for building construction. It only requires setbacks for building the building structures themselves. So we've kind of created this article, and we do it for all the articles, and I've always had this issue, but maybe it's only me that cares.
Yeah, well, you're welcome
Can
to
I
bring it
provide a
up
little
with them.
context on that?
Sure.
Walter, is it okay if I provide a little context?
That'll be great.
Okay, great. Yeah,
That's
just
John Arnold, by the way,
Yeah.
just
Yeah,
Chris
yeah,
was looking
John Arnold,
puzzled.
town moderator. Speaking as a private citizen, not as the moderator, so if you don't mind that. The M1 zoning in town goes back to when the 1980 library edition was put in place. And it was done at the time, so the M1 zoning, as I recall, is a very special zoning where it was essentially, it was, by putting that in, when construction was going to be done on town-owned land for town-owned purposes, it was decided to create the M1 zoning so the town meeting would have to vote on where buildings could be on that lot. So in the early olden days, back in the 80s, 90s, all the way up until probably about 10 or 15 years ago, as Rod is mentioning, the setbacks used to be listed as this is where the building is going to go. And for some reason, and I tend to agree with Rod on this, for some reason, about 15 or 20 years ago, to make it easy for people to do whatever they wanted, they started changing the setbacks to be zero. And if my understanding of the intent of the article is it was supposed to allow the voters to to have a little bit more specifics in terms of where the building for the project under consideration was going to be done. And so, Rod, I'd be interested in going to the meeting or following up on the meeting so I can share that history, because I think not many people remember that, because we've had a long series of articles where, just to make it easy, we've said 0, 0, 0, and that really wasn't the intent of the article. And from my private citizen point of view, it does essentially allow the town to essentially build walled, essentially border to border on it. And I would have a strong preference for going back to giving some leeway to say, let's say where the thing's going to be built. I didn't have a chance to express that opinion before the warrant was finalized, but I was going to express it after, and now that I've heard Rod express it, I'm more than willing to enter into that discussion as well.
Yeah, the part two of that, John, is just that it says future development as well. So if another building was built there, they wouldn't have to come out the town to.
Yeah, I hadn't noticed that until you mentioned it, Rod, so thanks for pointing that out.
Excellent. Okay, any other questions? And just note that Beth is here now for our meeting note taker. So we have everybody. Any other questions for Chris on this? It would be my intention that the two articles, what we now call 11 and 12, these dimensional zonings, we would wait till Thursday to vote for them to allow the public meeting to happen on Wednesday, and we can do it then. But the first one we'll vote later. Okay, so now the big banana, or whatever you want to call it.
Yep, next one
the
is
water.
Related to the article we were just talking about. It has to do with the PFAS construction we're doing at the Oak Street Water Treatment Plant. So if you recall, we went to a town meeting in March for appropriation for funding for that, $6.4 million to be a loan through the state revolving fund. This month, we submit our application for that loan through the process to get that loan early next year. So we see a cost increase in that project. So it was 6.4. We're looking at an additional 1.8 million to bring it to 8.2 million. And just important to remember that these are estimates, and there's a whole lot of, our own, not a whole lot, but there's reasonable amount of contingency built into that, so we don't have to come back and ask for money again once we bid the project. But we need an appropriation from the town to go with the application for the loan, so we can get the amount where we think we need for the construction. So that's why we're bringing it to town meeting now, versus maybe waiting till we bid the project and see what it comes back at, and then ask for more money. We want to take advantage of the loan process, which gets us a 0% interest, which is pretty significant for us. So that's why we're asking for this money now. So it's 1.8 million. About 1.4 of that is attributed to basically costs increased from the last time we did the estimate last year. What we asked our consultant to do over the last several weeks, month or so, was go out to some contractors that are typical for this sort of work and basically survey for what current costs would be. So those numbers came back, and then based off of those numbers, we updated our own numbers. There was an increase in terms of what they suggested the price would be current day as of today. And so that then has a follow-on. So any contingency we built in, that goes up, and then our engineering services, that also goes up as well. So that was a portion of it. The other portion of the cost had to do with a scope change. So this is a water treatment plant, so there's a lot of regulations that go along with it. So we have to submit for review to DEP, and we did that at the very beginning. We got some feedback. The feedback over time adjusted basically, and when we submitted our most recent design, they asked us to add something to the design, which we have done. So that's about $200,000 there, and then there was an additional. The original project was to add this treatment process as an addition to the building. There's finished water, there's water pumps inside the building already that are nearing the end of their life cycle, so we decided it would be smart to replace those pumps now while we'll have the building under construction. So that added an additional $200,000. So that gives you about, 200, and 1.4 gives you 1.8. That's our increase.
So those pumps would also be eligible for the zero interest loan
Yes.
as well? Which is maybe another reason to do them now.
Yeah.
And way back when, you mentioned there was a possibility of actually principal forgiveness on these. Is there any?
Yeah,
more knowledge
there's
on that?
actually probably a couple of potentials, but we don't have any details. One is potentially some funding to mitigate some of the principal. So basically, the state just giving us money that's been allocated from the federal government. So our understanding is they get this money, they basically see how many are gonna apply, how much money is being asked for, they divide it up, and I don't know if this will happen or not, but there was discussion at one point that potentially some of it would be for the loan and some of it would be principal forgiveness, and I don't know if that'll happen or not. The other action that's out there that is probably a ways off, but does relate, is the town's been part of a class action related to PFAS, and so it's been in the newspapers that a couple of large companies settled, and so there's a large sum of money out there, but that's for the entire country. It's not just for, Massachusetts. So at some point, that money is going to be divvied up, and somehow it makes its way to each of the members, and so eventually we'll see something, but I don't know, how soon that will be. I'd love to see it obviously soon, but I don't know what that process will be.
Anybody have additional questions? Andrew?
Given the material change in just about the course of a little over a year, is there any reason to expect that as this plays out to actual development past design, that there's the possibility of another sizable increase?
I think there always is, but we built, so into that 1.4 or that 1.8 is built that contingency. So an escalation, essentially.
Okay. Thank you.
It's about 300,000 of that 1.4 is what we basically added on specifically for that.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
And to be clear, we only end up borrowing in the end what we spent.
Correct,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, so that was gonna be my one
Oh.
question. We only borrow what we spend. And I guess my other question then though is, so if we were to exceed that dollar amount, I assume that these loan funds don't come with any stipulations. We could source funds another way to make up the difference, right? It's not a whole project has to be funded from this loan, right? If it ends up being,
The answer is yes, but I suspect, although I can't say for certain, that if for some reason next year the project comes back, it's 8.3 or 8.4, that we could go back to the program and figure out how we get that additional funding.
okay.
But, so that part, I think, is kind of the easy part. We would have to come back to the town, because the town's only authorized this 8 point, or whatever you authorize, this 8.2, so we would have to figure that out. But that could all be figured out. We obviously don't wanna see that happen, because it just makes it hard for everybody, so, we're hoping it comes back less, but I certainly can't guarantee that.
I just assume our bigger risk is the losing the zero interest financing, because there is a huge benefit to that. So
Yes.
that was really my.
Yep.
Yeah, millions.
Right.
Millions of dollars.
Has the town said how much that savings would be? That is an interesting number.
Well, you can use the 8.8 million as a rough benchmark, and it's
Mhm.
about
I'm on it.
4-point-something million over the 20 years.
Okay.
I mean, this is pretty similar, so it
Yeah,
could be
fair enough.
calculated, but Leah said it's supposed to be a zero interest loan, so she didn't. Yeah, I mean, because you have to make a leap of, it's gonna be 5%, or is it gonna be 4, or 6, or whatever. But at 5%, which is the estimate on the community center, it came out to be about 4.5 million on 8.8, so this is
Wow. Okay.
probably at least 4 million that you'd be saving by having a
It's
zero
definitely an
interest
advantage.
loan. Yeah, it's big, it's
Yeah.
big coin. Anybody else here? Anybody remote with a question? Rod?
Yeah, Walter, thank you. What's the deadline on the loan application, Chris?
The deadline is, I believe, October 13th, so that's before town meeting, but we've discussed it with the program, and they're okay with us submitting it a week later as long as we get the appropriation from town meeting.
So if we went in with went in with a lower number, or if we went in with the original number, how would that affect the loan application?
Are you saying if town meeting doesn't approve the increase? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah. Would you still put in the loan for the 6.5?
Yeah, I think we would, that's what we would do. And then probably, yeah, we would certainly submit the application for whatever we're appropriated for. And then, I suspect we would
You can't do the project, though.
basically wait till, we'd have to wait till we bid the project, see how much it comes back at, and then if it's 6.4 or less, then we can do it. If it's not, then we're back to the drawing board. We're gonna lose another year of
Doesn't get
potential
cheaper.
construction time. And we're looking at 2 years for construction, so even if we get this, we expect hopefully to bid it out next spring, which means we'll start ideally in the summertime. Start meaning you're not gonna necessarily see shovel in the ground, but that's ordering all of the materials and everything else, and then depending on lead time for that, we're looking at probably about 20 months.
So I'll just make a general comment, and this doesn't apply necessarily to Chris, but to all of our town projects. In my opinion, too often we have these price increases without evaluating what the design alternatives are. And, there's something in the industry called value engineering, where you look at different options that may cost more or less. One way or another, I would encourage you to do that. The second is that just because the price goes up doesn't necessarily mean that the cost of the engineering services go up, in my opinion. And too often those are tied together. Whether they're designing something for 6 million or 8 million doesn't necessarily cost more design.
Yeah, so I'll just address, because I want to be clear that, like, for this particular project, we started this process in 2020, and it started with a $200,000 grant that did a alternatives analysis. So we had multiple options that we looked at, and those were discussed with the Department of Environmental Protection, and so we ultimately, decided on a solution. And that's the path we went down to get to where we are now. In terms of, what was the second thing you just said?
Engineering services.
Oh, the engineering, yeah. So with the additional scope, I get your point, but with the additional scope, there's additional time added to the project, which means we have to pay a project manager for that additional time. So I agree that your design doesn't necessarily change, but in all cases, but because the construction services went up, or construction costs went up, but in this case, it's not just about the design; it's about the project management, which is also, covered by the engineer.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Everybody else good? All right. Thank you very much for your
Okay.
time.
All right, thank you.
Welcome to hang out with us, or not.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you for
Thank you.
coming.
Thank you.
In terms of the other articles, Christie will be coming Thursday night, and we'll probably spend the evening on the community center. There is a public Q&A tomorrow night, 6:30, I think, right here, and again on Thursday at the senior center. And I think both of those will be available online as well to watch. Okay, so I guess first I'm willing to To me, we have a good reason not to vote on Articles 11 and 12, because the public hearing for them are tomorrow, Wednesday? One or the other?
I think tomorrow, Chris said.
Yeah.
Yeah, tomorrow, Chris said.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's the 3rd, yeah. All right, so we will wait till Thursday on that, but I'd be up for a motion on the acceptance of Quick Farm Road.
McMahon, make a motion to recommend the town vote to accept as a public way the layout of a portion of Quick Farm Roads. Do we need the details?
No, it was written
Okay.
in the warrant or something.
As
like
written
that.
in the warrant.
Bradley, second.
Bradley. Any discussion? As I said before, the planning board has voted in favor of this acceptance. No further comments? All right, we have to figure this out. We have to do a roll call vote.
Lundberg, yes.
Oh, yes, and you're here, good, so you'll start off. Let's see.
Ford,
Melanie.
yes.
Bradley, yes.
Clap, yes?
Dolan, yes?
Leslie, yes.
McMahon, yes.
Safford, yes.
Okay, that is 900, 9 present. Okay, thank you. Just note that down. Okay, so today is 10/2. All right, the next one, why don't we put the water treatment into play? I think the motion will be 1.8 million, so we can use that. If it isn't that at town meeting, we can decide whether or not to
And do we
revote
need
it or
to
whatever.
include the part about authorizing the select board on the loan agreement?
I would do, the town authorized to borrow with the amount, and then as written in the warrant, I think for the rest of it's probably okay.
Okay.
We're just really, I don't think we have to read the whole thing.
Okay. McMahon, motion to recommend the town vote to amend Article 23 of the 2023 annual town meeting to increase the approximation of $6,400,000 by a sum of $1,800,000 as written in the warrant.
Bradley, second.
Appropriation, not approximation.
I'm sorry, appropriation.
I was wondering what, because that wasn't a very approximate article. It was
No.
very specific.
My glasses
Thank you,
back.
Beth.
No problem, I was just listening.
Okay, discussion?
I have one question, Walter.
Yes. Go ahead.
Will we know if we get the loan before we start construction?
Yeah.
It sounds like it, because he was not talking about actually start construction for quite a
20
while.
months or something. There's a delay.
Although
But he
this,
is authorized. They would
yeah,
be
this would authorize
authorized.
them to borrow it,
Yes.
whether they get this loan or they go
Right.
float a muni bond. I mean, it doesn't, this article
Right.
isn't tied to that loan program.
Correct.
So it's more, what the more recent part is if we don't get the 0%, we are responsible for the full amount of whatever they borrow at.
Yes.
Yeah.
While the water rate payers are
Okay.
Well,
specifically.
except for the article does specifically say, that we can, and does specifically reference the security agreement, with the trust and Department of Environmental
Yeah.
Protection.
I mean, the expectation is that's what's gonna happen.
Yeah, but it doesn't tie it.
Right.
Does it say and other, or
No.
not reading it?
Well, so it starts, so determine whether this amount shall be raised by borrowing or otherwise, including the borrowing of any or all portions of this amount through the Massachusetts Clean Water Trust.
Which
So I
could
guess
be
it's saying, yeah,
Right.
it's really not
And
limiting it to Clean Water
My
Trust.
understanding is we're authorizing the select board to make that decision, so the select board, if it was in 10% interest loan, might decide not to do that. or
Well, but
something,
so it's a good
right?
point, like we are delegating the authority to make that decision. We assume the select board will make a reasonable decision, but to your point,
But I
It's
think
Well,
the-
$4.8
that's
million
any-
in interest.
It's any borrow,
Right,
any borrow.
right.
any borrow
And
where,
I think the reality of it is we also have an obligation as a town to deal with PFAS.
True.
Right.
But it is worth the acknowledgement that we are potentially agreeing to an additional $4.8 million in interest, if that were the case, right? Because that's
Yeah.
20 years at 5% is $4.8 million.
Any other, I mean, Beth essentially made a comment on the importance of doing this. It's certainly a comment. Anybody else? Okay, let's take a roll call vote, starting with Beth.
Blumberg, yes.
Ford, yes.
Bradley, yes.
Jane?
Clap, yes.
I'm sorry.
Dolan, yes.
Leslie, yes?
McMahon, yes.
Cafford, no.
So we are at 8-1-0. Okay. So the next thing I'd like to do would be capture, I don't know if we have any sage wisdom on accepting Quick Farm Road, other than it's what we do. We accept roads once they meet the standards, and the planning board approved it, so maybe that's all
Yeah.
we have for our committee comment. How about the water article? Are there comments? And Rod might want to also contribute a comment on the minority opinion too.
It seems like it was a reasonable
Oh.
idea to capture
I
the,
can't hear you through the mic.
sorry. It seems like it's a reasonable idea to capture the potential of a 0% interest loan and to be efficient in the process of getting this project going.
Okay.
You can word it better.
Any other suggestions, ideas, comments? Generally supportive of removing PFAS from water?
Yeah. Things people didn't even know about 10 years ago.
Yeah. Rod, did you want to?
Yeah, I guess my opinion would be we should challenge our design team to come up with a $6.4 million solution and wait till we go out to bid and get the real numbers before we authorize an additional amount.
Okay, I was a little hard hearing you, but I think what you said is it'd be better to challenge the design team to come up with a 6.4 million solution and go out to bid. Is that
Yep.
correct? Go out to bid at the current funding, current authorized.
Right. Yep.
Great, okay. Okay, anything else on that? If not, let's see what else I got. Okay, a couple miniature follow-up things from the other night. We had talked about the landfill budget, and I'm not sure exactly where we got our numbers at the time, but I did spend 10 minutes looking it up today. And the existing fiscal 2024 budget for landfill is actually $918,100. That was what the AFC recommended at the annual town meeting in March, and that's up from the $726,300 of fiscal 2023, which is up approximately 192K or 26%. When you remove that 50K, it's now at 868, and so that still is above fiscal 2023, which was a budget of 726, and I think we thought somehow it was less than last year or something. Yeah. We might have looked at actual spend or something, I don't know. or at the budget book, which you gotta remember, the budget book is made at the very beginning of the budget, so unless you
It
have
was from the budget book.
unless you have the updated pages, so they might have realized, as I recall, they got the message from Harvey later on, and that probably went
Yeah,
up
The increase came
afterwards,
after.
so,
That's why I was thinking that
probably
there
it.
had been some further discussion, and I couldn't find a reference to it, and so, yeah.
So I went back to, our report and recommendations is online, which has what we voted, so I went with that, but I think that might be it. An interesting part, which I don't fully understand, is that in fiscal '23, we actually only spent 593,000 of the 726, so I don't know why it was less. And so,
There's a pretty significant difference.
given the
too, right? I
fact
mean,
it
it's,
doesn't influence the fact that we want to take $50,000 out of this year's budget, other than maybe you wanted to take more or something, but I think we can move on
I mean,
for
I think
now.
at the very least, it is, Walter, useful to know, though, as we go into the next set of budget conversations, right? It's at least we're
It's a
looking and saying, well,
question we
that's an
can ask.
interesting thing, and now in a couple months, when we start next year's conversations, we can,
And I'm hoping by the time we start kicking into the budget, we will be getting these reports again, because we haven't really got one since the end of the year, and with Leah leaving later this month, I'm not sure we will until the new person's in, or unless she throws us one at the end of the month, I don't know. But in any case, it would only have covered, well, right now, we're up to about 4 months, or if it covered September, it'd be 3 months, which would be significant, yeah. Be nice. I will ask her if she's planning on that, or if she's leaving it to the new fellow. By the way, they did hire somebody, so we will have a new finance director, which is really good.
Walter, I have one question.
Yes.
And I don't know if anybody knows the answer, but is this for all the trash in the town, schools, town buildings, and the landfill itself, or what's used by the citizens, or what makes up, what do we get for this?
I believe it's doing the
I'm not
transportation
sure if it includes the
business.
schools, does it?
Yeah,
It does?
well,
I don't
know
believe
for
so, they
sure,
have dumpsters.
but the dumpsters end up at Harvey's, and then the
Yeah, it
dump,
might be.
and then the
Yeah.
trash at Harvey's ends up at Wheelabrator. And a lot of what we pay for is the transportation to Wheelabrator.
Yeah, but that's okay. His question was, what's it cover? And it covers all the citizens who show up with dump stickers, and it also covers
Tidy Town
the stuff
pickup.
that's coming with Tidy Town, because people are paying for the transportation, not for the dumping fees.
Right, and I think the
Yeah.
school also takes their
It could
trash
be.
to the dump.
Yeah. So that probably is everything. It doesn't include businesses in town.
But that still has to get hauled to Wheelabrator.
But we're not.
Yeah,
paying
but
for
we
it.
don't pay for that part. It
Yeah, that's
doesn't
the
come
part we
in.
pay for.
No, we don't, when they're getting money when someone commercially dumps there outside of the
okay.
town. And other towns dump there too. We don't pay for everything that goes to Wheelabrator.
Okay, fine.
Yeah. That would be, I guess. Did that semi-answer your question? We could ask
Yeah, the only
school.
thing I was confused about was the Tidy Town. So if somebody uses Tidy Town as a resident, they pay for the transportation, but not for the tipping fee?
Yes. That's my understanding. That's why it's inexpensive, relatively. Okay, other homework piece was, Chris left, but he did send me a list of the buildings. I don't know if that was useful to you all or not. I don't think the
Question.
Harvey building does much these days, does it?
Which building is the Harvey building?
Behind the Y,
What?
the one behind the Y.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
is that the 20 Phillips Street,
Yeah.
correct? Yeah.
Yes.
It's where the
Oh,
Boy Scouts have their meetings, but that's not really a town function.
Yeah, so I believe this is the one my, my husband was saying is empty. We mow the grass and it sits empty.
And we paid a couple of $1,000s to spruce it up a little recently because it was in such poor repair, but that was it.
Yeah, I thought that was one of the ones they were doing was that included in the analysis study that was
Yes, it
done?
was.
But we haven't really heard back on that one, I
We have
think,
not.
yet.
What is the analysis study? I'm not sure.
Well, they did at at the country club building, they did, I don't remember what the other building was. They were doing 3 buildings.
Harvey was one of them. Was
Yeah.
it Senior Center the other one? I forget. But they were looking to try and understand what would be needed to keep these buildings
Right.
safe and secure, because,
As Chris likes to plan in advance, he wanted to get an idea of what, rather than constantly just Band-Aiding things, get an idea, an assessment. Of course,
Well-
that study is what sort of triggered the whole country club,
Demise.
building demise, I guess.
So then I was curious about,
The
9
Forbes,
East Main
yeah.
Street. It's got a.
That's the old
That's the
Forbes
high
building.
no, 9 East Main is the tiny
Oh,
little
no,
building
it's
on
not
Route
west.
It
9.
Where
has
the
a
food
food
pantry
It's right
pantry.
next
Is
to
that the only
the
thing in
borough.
it is a food pantry?
There's a room upstairs. I think
Yeah.
the food pantry
I
uses
think
almost
Boy
all of it
Scouts-
now.
Because the
Troop,
Boy Scouts used to also meet there. or
Troop
some
used
of
to
them,
meet
something.
upstairs, but I
I
think
mean,
they're
it's a cute little
gone.
building. I've driven past 100
Yeah.
times and
Innocuous, yeah.
it looks empty.
No, it holds the food pantry.
Well, it
and
would
they
make
pretty
sense,
much
right?
use
There's no
most
big
of it up.
signage, but good.
And
I
it's,
didn't.
the entrance to the food pantry is
Is
on the
around
back
that.
side, on the lower
Oh,
level.
which would make sense. I'm looking at
Yeah,
a
yeah.
picture of it now, and
Yep.
obviously the parking
Yep.
is behind
The
it.
ground level it was sort of just like a large room upstairs.
But it is a
Yeah.
cute
Yeah,
little
like a meeting
building
room.
too. I feel like we
Yeah.
have a couple sort of underutilized buildings, and maybe this
Well,
one is.
That one's fully
full,
utilized,
right.
trust me.
But
Yeah.
like, is it really being utilized in a way that we couldn't move some of that functionality over to the new building? Like, this is the question of capacity.
Oh, could you move the
Right.
food pantry to the new building? Possibly, yeah.
Ditto with Phillips. I mean, I don't know what we're doing. There's probably storage there.
Yeah,
We
I
can
don't
throw a
know.
big old
That would
shed
be a
behind
good-
the new building.
Can we,
I would imagine that.
can we sell that building
actually put
or
a
something?
shed behind
If we can, I don't know.
No?
It's not getting used.
Fair enough.
So, if I can interject, I'll tell you what I know. The Phillips building did have the assessment done. That's published somewhere. And I think the Players Club uses it for storage as well, the Westborough Players. And then I think the food pantry building was supposed to have a study done, but I don't think that one's been done yet.
Like Westborough community thing. Just using it for storage, so
Yeah,
it's
it's a-
that great of a use.
It's just
Building.
getting dust on
Yeah.
paperwork.
All right, well, that's something I guess we can ask about in the future. Good to know. Okay. Next thing, I took people's advice on the report and recommendation on our statements. I changed the thing to committee statement and switched it all around. And I sent the draft of the stuff we had already written to Sheila, who's starting to enter this stuff in. I will add today's, and then I'll circulate that again. And that seems okay. My next question would be on the draft message to voters. I'm looking for any feedback, wisdom, nuggets, anything on that. Anybody has comments? Hopefully. Nobody wants to start?
I know I haven't had a chance to go through it, but I am
Okay.
planning on doing it this week, so that's why I'm quiet at the moment, so.
Okay, Thursday is my last chance, or Thursday's your last chance, because I'm sending something in.
He's putting all
So-
of our
on
names on
Thursday,
it.
on,
So
Friday
Wednesday evening is
morning.
what I hear is you need it from.
No, we're meeting Thursday night. On Thursday night, we will vote to approve something that goes in
As
with,
edited.
usually, it's just with edits at that
Yep.
point. So it puts us in a bit of a bind to, if you want major changes, yeah, sending me stuff ahead would be much better. Because either we have to type it live here or get people to agree that we can change it or do something. The way it's gonna work is Friday, the staff here leaves at noon. They're out Monday because of the holiday. So Tuesday morning, it has to go to the printer. So Tuesday, Sheila will do she'll send it to me on Friday before she goes. I can proofread things, and any changes we
minute.
have to make, we can do Tuesday morning, and then it's gone to the printer, so That's sort of just the schedule. So that we are down to the wire. So to that end, if you have any things, then I'm hoping, because I think next Thursday meeting is going to be a little bit busy with the discussion on the community center. But we will have to stay later, I guess, to get this. We have to finish something, so we can put nothing in, or we could put in something. But that's the last day we can put in something. You know what I mean? Any other comments? Okay. Let's see what's next. Future meeting agendas. So Thursday, we're gonna have Christie and we'll have a discussion, and I would suggest we hopefully can vote on the center. At some point, you gotta vote. That way it's in the book. If we are uncomfortable with voting at that time, we cannot put it in the book as well. I should say, if the majority is not comfortable voting with it at the time. And then we have an option for a Thursday meeting the following week. I don't have an identified purpose for that yet, unless at this Thursday's meeting, there's some reason we want to meet ahead of town meeting to haggle about stuff, I guess, I don't know. So we probably won't have a meeting that Thursday. So then our meeting after this Thursday would be this Saturday morning, or sorry, Monday night, wrong meeting. Monday night, I'll set a meeting probably a half hour earlier so we can wake up our meeting, and if there's any last minute things. But we have a meeting running during town meeting anyway, so we're allowed to talk to each other. So I don't think and no one else thinks of a reason why we need to meet again. There's no new articles. I had thought that if, a citizen's petition or something had been added at the very last week, we might not be getting around to getting information on it until that, and even though it wasn't in the book, we might want to meet. But, okay, that's good. So that'll save us meetings. So it seems like we meet Thursday, we hear from Christie, and we do the community center and the R&R. We will have to vote. In terms of meeting minutes, we'll get the tri-board ones eventually. I'm sure she's too busy on this other stuff. And as of the moment, we don't have other minutes to vote on. Are there any liaison reports? Nothing good? Okay. I did attend the Finance Committee meeting today. We spent most of the time just sort of going through the warrant. It's somewhat remarkable that the schools have no articles in the warrant. Because, they don't almost really have to come, which is interesting. Because I guess they pulled the big, they had one, but it didn't work out. And I gave the feedback that you provided for next year at the pre-meeting. It'd be good to have the slides ahead of time so you could digest the numbers that go by kind of quickly on the screen. And she thought she could accommodate that if she gets it done in time. It's really what it comes down to. Okay. I guess we are ready probably to adjourn. Nothing else?
Motion to adjourn?
Beth?
McMahon, second.
Okay, any discussion? Nope. All right, we have to do it, roll call.
Blumberg, yes.
Board, yes.
Bradley, yes?
Clap, yes.
Dolan, yes.
Leslie, yes.
McMahon, yes.
Effort, yes.
We are adjourned. See you Thursday night. Thank you, Westborough TV.